Oops. Okay, hopefully you can hear me now, guys. I'm all kinds of discombobulated here this evening, but welcome back to Paranormal Planet Live. This is the live show of the Paranormal Intelligence Agency, and I'm its founder, Jack Carey. Looks like we've got some people show already in the chat board. That's always good to see. And this evening's show. There we go. Okay, finally. Good evening, guys. Glad to be here. This is Jack, Paranormal Planet. And it's been a real hectic week. It's been one of those weeks that has really kept me running, and therefore I wasn't able to spend quite as much time prepping for this particular show as I would like to. Somebody out there says audio. Let me know if you're still hearing the audio, I suppose. Hi from Argentina. Wow, thanks for joining us. Appreciate that, Ignacio. Cheers. Thank you. I'm just having some hot black coffee to kind of keep me awake and keep me going. I've got people from North Texas, and yeah, cool. So the audio is back, I'm being told. So yeah, this has been a really hectic week. There's big changes in the air. Good changes. Changes that have been coming for a while now, and that I am super excited about. I tell you what, I'm going to bring something up here for you guys. I'm going to share it on the screen, just let you see it, and then we'll talk about what this particular change is going to be. So I think you'll be surprised what the next few months hold, and how many different big things are going to be happening over the next few months. So let me. Okay. So I'm going to share something with you guys, and this is a newly produced intro to a new program that I will be starting. So take a look and let me know what you think. This comes from a completely new production group, and they seem like a really good group, very talented, and we're going to be covering some really interesting stuff that isn't stuff that we cover here. Let's see here. All right, so that is the intro to the new show, and we're really excited about it. It's called Threshold, and this will be premiering on a altogether brand new launch of a brand new YouTube channel that is sort of centrally owned and there's a whole new production team kind of behind that, people that have a lot of experience actually with production value, and it takes a lot of the sort of the weight of doing all of that kind of the work for a show off of investigators, and allows them to, me to spend my time actually investigating and having the those parts of the show actually done by the time I'm ready to report each week. So it's really that's kind of the best relationship to have when you're doing a live YouTube investigation show, which is what I do, and really what I've become is an investigative writer. I investigate these mysteries. I've been doing it a long time, and I report on it. So that's really kind of what it comes down to these days. So I hope you liked that intro. There's going to be a lot of advertising effort, marketing effort on that particular show. There may even be, a marketing company that has been responsible for, let's say, accumulating large subscriberships for certain channels, so are interested in that. So Las Vegas loves Jack Carey. Thanks, Marvin. That's good to know. I'm not much of a gambler, but I love you guys back. So, wow, somebody from Russia is here too. Welcome. I wish I read or spoke Russian. I do not. I'm not that talented. So I mentioned other big changes are in the air. So those of you that have been following the show for a while and my cryptozoology work know that I've recently been given personal, private access, me and my team, for a privately owned 1,000-acre plot of land deep in the Ozark Mountains, a place that was roughly where the location was of the Choctaw Bigfoot conflict that took place. And so this area is actual Choctaw land, if you will. This is where the Choctaw tribe really inhabited for a very, very long time. My family, my grandfather and his mother were Choctaw. And I'm native to Oklahoma. So all of this kind of comes roundabout into the fact that a new big change is going to be that I will be relocating to the Ozark Mountains, very near this 1,000-acre property, full time. And this is going to be a huge change as far as the amount of field work I will be able to accomplish in a very short period of time. The area I've been given access to is privately owned. It is an area where the people around it do report Bigfoot activity. It's an area of nonstop activity in LaFleur County. So go to any BFRO report website, etc., and hit LaFleur County, you're going to see how famous that area is for its sheer amount of Bigfoot activity. So I pulled up, it's interesting because I'm a native Oklahoman. I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, and the world has this whole other vast idea of what Oklahoma is from a few Hollywood scenes or something like that, and that's it. And so rarely does anybody really know what it's like. But I'm going to show you just one of our state parks, and this is the Talamina State Park. This is Choctaw land, and keep in mind, this is just one. We have mountain ranges. This is near the Ouachita Mountain Range. So, and you'll see why Oklahoma is such a hotbed of cryptic activity. So this is called the Talamina National Scenic Byway, and people know it all over the world. But you can see the mountain ranges here. This is in southeastern Oklahoma. And obviously, this is in the fall. It's a scenic drive that everybody takes where I grew up. And what you're seeing all around here is just vast wilderness. Vast. I mean, and these ranges are big ranges, and they go on into the east, into the Ozark Mountains, and become the Ozarks, and etc. All through Arkansas, etc. So it's one of those areas. And if, for instance, if you go to and just pull up like Talamina State Park on Google, you're going to see some incredible footage or pictures of this area. And you can take a look, and people are like, really, that's Oklahoma, huh? And I'm like, yep, that's Oklahoma. That's the Oklahoma I grew up in anyway. So yeah, the whole western half of Oklahoma is kind of what you see. It's the dusty plains and all of that. But the other half, that's the southeastern part of Oklahoma, or just the eastern part of Oklahoma where it borders Arkansas. That's all Ozark Mountains, and it's green and lush and beautiful and mountainous. And the first time I took my wife there, who was from South Dakota, where we currently are, she just could not believe that we were in Oklahoma and how pretty it was. So anyway, this is a place that's had an immense amount of historic Bigfoot activity. It is the place that is not far from my murdered by human wolves case that was handed over to me by a private investigator, and that I continue to this day, and hope to bring some sort of resolution to. This will allow me to have feet on the ground near where all of the dogman activity took place, and the headstones and the cemeteries, etc. So huge development. Again, that relocation is going to occur within just the next couple of months, so it's going to be fast. And there's good reason for that, but I'll not get into all of that on this particular show. So, but it's huge. I'm excited about it. Like I said, my family is from there. They're all still in Oklahoma. Most of them are, in fact, Okies from Muskogee. No kidding there. You can't make this up. And I love them dearly, and I am as well. So when it comes down to it. So you're going to get to see a lot of deep wood Ozark field work. And this is a pristine laboratory, outdoor laboratory-like environment that is exclusive to us. Going to be able to plant really interesting equipment and leave it long term, and that's a dream for any cryptozoologist, because we don't have to worry about any of the equipment ever being taken. Can guarantee you that much. Like I said, it's like a dream come true. I wish J.C. Johnson was still alive to take on this particular journey with me, because this is exactly what he and I always talked about. And so yeah, we're super excited. I'm super excited about it. So yeah, and I'll keep you kind of up to date as things sort of uncurl that way. And as I speak, it's like, I don't know, it's probably like minus 14 outside right now. So it is brutal cold in South Dakota right now. Oh, thanks, James. James Smith. I really appreciate that. Says you always have amazing stories and pictures and videos, always new. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. So I didn't have like one big main topic for this evening. Like I said, it's been super hectic with all the stuff that's been going on. Lots of decisions have been just made this past week. And on top of that, there's a lot of prep work already going on for the uh, Ancient Civilizations Convention in Boulder, September next year. Keep that in mind if you want to see an amazing presentations from all of the people that you saw with me in Ancient Civilizations. Are all going to be there. Graham Hancock and Nassim Harriman and you name it, they'll be there. Billy Carson, who's a good friend of mine, super nice guy who knows his stuff. So, um, and tonight there was a lot of stuff that kind of has been popping out lately that I thought we would go over. First of all, the woo world, the economy, the stuff I've been talking about the last few shows and on an ongoing period of time. It's if you've been following along the uh, predictions that were coming along through Cliff High's Alta reports and God, actually quite a few different areas were of this looming economic implosion, and that would be tied to the revealing of alien secrets. All of that seems to be sort of manifesting right now into our reality, and it's sort of breathtaking to watch. Um, if you go to the PIA website, I have got some really interesting articles up there, and one of them is kind of what brings us into the main topic of tonight. So, this article I came across. Or a report. It's about people who have UFO encounters suffering damage, which is fascinating. But before I get to this main report, there is one thing I wanted to mention. There is an interesting thing being reported out there that NASA actually invited quite a number of theologians recently to a meeting, private meeting, and it's being speculated by a lot of people like me out there that this was NASA telling these guys, giving them the shoulder, giving them the elbow, and saying, "Hey guys, we're not going to be able to deny it much longer. You know, you need to prepare, and more importantly, you should help prepare our society for the shock of what is about to happen. And you can do it now, or you can suffer, possible societal collapse once it's finally completely accepted to the point where people can't just turn the channel or put the paper down and pretend like they didn't see or hear the truth." So, so I found that really fascinating. We combine that with some statements lately that have been made by Lou Elizondo, the ex-ATIP chief, and the whole disclosure crew from ATIP to the TTSA to, other elements, I suspect Bob Bigelow, etc., who are actually working behind the scenes to bring about a quicker disclosure than many in the Pentagon, I think, would prefer at this stage. So there's a big battle going on still, guys, for disclosure. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are still wanting to keep it a secret, but a lot of the people that were hell bent on keeping those things locked away forever have died. And you have a new generation of people now in those control positions who grew up watching sci-fi and stuff like that. People are different. The times are different. And so to see disclosure taking place right now isn't that jaded, or shouldn't really be that jaded of a thing. It actually should be something to expect in the time of Aquarius, which is the time of revealing of all the secrets. That is the nature of the cycle in humanity. So that out of the way, I want to talk about UFOs doing damage. So it caught my eye immediately, and even more so was the fact that the credible nature of the report, and the fact that And I'm going to pull it up here for you guys. The fact that, this is one of the most prestigious learning institutions in the world, Stanford, and this is being reported in mainstream media. And this is what I talk about all the time on this show, is that stuff like this comes out and everyone should be talking about it. And nobody even knows that the article is out there. It just blows my mind. Everybody knows who Kim Kardashian's dating, but they don't know about this. And that's the problem, guys. And until that is utterly, completely, and totally eliminated from the human species, we have a terminal problem on our hands. So, and that terminal problem is called stupidity. So I'm going to share this interesting report with you guys. Now, I do have a report of this on the PIA website. Come by, it's paraintelagency.com. There at the bottom of the screen, and you'll be able to get there through the members links. And let me pull this up here. All right. So this was an interview that Motherboard did. It was reported on Vice. It was, there's YouTube stuff out there about it, and nobody's even talking about it. But the headline is Stanford professor Gary Nolan is analyzing anomalous materials from UFO crashes. That's an interesting enough headline, right? And you go on to read everything about what he's studying. He was given some samples of slag, which is the stuff that people say UFOs are dropping from time to time onto the ground. This is the stuff that he's been given to analyze, right? This is a professor who broke the Atacama skeleton mystery. He was the one that proved that it was, in fact, a human baby with a number of different genetic problems. Now, what's interesting is that his work with the Atacama mummy actually gained him attention with the CIA. And all of a sudden, he has these guys showing up at his doorstep. And I'm going to read if I can find the exact spot. The fact that they were interested in his blood work analysis and his expertise. In analyzing blood. So let me find the part. There's a part in here where the doctor actually talks about how these guys, yeah, here you go. So, and I'll highlight this for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's interesting enough that he's analyzing the Atacama skeleton, and they gave him pieces of a UFO. Now they show up and he says this in the interview. Then these guys showed up and said, we need you to help us with this because we want to do blood analysis. And everybody says that you've got the best blood analysis instrumentation on the planet. Then they started showing the MRIs of some of these pilots and ground personnel and intelligence agents who had been damaged. The MRIs were clear. You didn't have to be an MD to see that there was a problem. Some of their brains were horribly damaged. And so that's what kind of got me involved. Yeah, kind of got you involved. And as you can see, they even provided, there you go. So on the left is a normal human brain. On the right is what happens when you have a close encounter with the UFO. And this was static, meaning it occurred in all 100 people that they examined. So what you're looking at with these white lobes, these white masses in the brain lobes, that is damage, neurologic damage that can never be repaired. Uh, it's tragic, is what it is. Um, so you can see the enlargement, you can see the overall just amazing amount of damage done to the organ. It's something that really shocked them. It's something that the CIA is acutely aware of and apparently are studying. And it's something that we all need to be aware of now, too, as a paranormal community. So, how's that for evidence? Um, and, when I came across this, it's like always, it fits into a pattern that I've seen before. And these patterns that I talk about on the show, they go back into ancient history sometimes. And so there's an interesting pattern of UFOs and them doing damage to humans. And the other thing that occurred to me, excuse me, was when I saw this report was, ooh, I wonder where Dr. Greer is on this one and the cosmic kumbaya crowd, because I don't believe for a second that the aliens are innocuous in any way, shape, or form. And although I like him as a person, I think he's doing humanity a great disservice by saying there is no threat when clearly there is. So I wanted to give you a few other examples. So this is a big deal. This in and of itself is a very big deal. This will be reported to the senators and to the Congress office, and this will further their fervent efforts of people like Senator Marco Rubio to root this out. And they will root this out, guys. Times they are a changing. And this is one of the things that they are changing, or they just whipping back the curtains and saying, here's the bodies, boys. Well, no, they're not doing that. And they're never going to do that. I have people all the time making comments on here saying, oh, you just think that the government has our best interests at heart. And I'm like, no, that's not what I've ever said. What I've said is 10 years ago, you never would have dreamed that they even admitted that UFOs were real. Then they admitted that they're not ours. Then they admitted that they're breaking the laws of physics. Then they admitted that they're transmedium craft. Now they're admitting that they're doing damage to human bodies. That's disclosure, guys. And that's as fast and as good as you're ever going to see it. So you ought to be rejoicing in the streets right now for all of the people that are still so jaded about, oh, they're still hiding all this stuff. Well, you want to know why? Because, Johnny and Susie down the street would lose their freaking mind if all of that was just laid out there wide open. Humanity, there's just so many people that have their heads buried in the sand, and this is coming like a freight train, and it's going to just run them over, and because they're not paying attention. And I talk about that all the time. So let me show you a couple of other examples of what I'm talking about. So some of you may remember the so-called Chupas reports. So let's go here. I'm going to take that off. Now, the Chupas are what they called UFOs in Brazil. There was a time when the people there were being attacked by the Chupas. And let me see here. And during this period, people were actually getting hurt. So let me see. Find this. Might take me just a second here, but it's interesting because there's actual medical pictures of this. Hmm. Brain damage. Oh, I guess they did get rid of it. I had it pulled up earlier, and but let me pull this up for you guys. Wow. Oh my God. Okay. How far back here? Let me see. My audio keeps dying for some reason. So mm, let's see. How far back were we here, guys? So anyway, I was showing the Chupa attacks. So, and that's okay because it took me a while to actually find them on here. I was looking earlier for these, and it took me a while to find them, and I found them, and then uh, put the tab away, and trying to find them again was even more difficult. So this is what I was showing you guys. So the Chupa was what they called UFOs in Brazil in 1970. The people were calling them these, and they were shooting lasers at the people, and they were hitting them and making burn marks like this, and they were chasing the people and terrorizing them. This was widely reported at the time, and it's something you can look up. It's just another example of UFO aggression, which is kind of what ties into the whole brain damage that they're now studying. So that's interesting. And the other thing is, and this is what I will show you, is, and this is where things get really kind of dark for sure and disturbing for sure. And it's something that is the darkest side of what I would consider to be aggression from UFOs, damage done to humans from these unidentified craft. And yet another very, very pertinent reason um, for having people looking at this. So, you have heard of cattle mutilation before, I am quite certain. So, how about human mutilation? So, this gentleman, and I have the actual autopsy report on my computer because it's been out for a long time. This was in 1994 in Guaraparanga, Brazil, same area that the Chupas were in, right? And this is one of the known times that a human was mutilated in the same fashion as we find a cattle mutilated. Now you can see the puncture wound there, the circular puncture wound. You can see where they took all of the skin around the jaw and mouth area. They cored out the eyes. They took half of the ear, just like they do on the cattle. Another circular incision where they exsanguinate the victim and drain them of all of the blood. And there's a lot of damage done to this poor guy. The anus was cored out just like a cow. So this guy got the exact same thing happen to him as that happens in a cattle mutilation to a cow. And what are we to extrapolate from that? Are we to extrapolate that this was a mistake of some kind? That the craft that normally would do a cattle mutilation mistook this guy for a cow and did the operation on him instead? Or are we just, this happens all the time and we just don't see the body afterwards? Because when you read the autopsy report, it says that whatever did the wounds to this individual was designed in order to create those specific wounds, and that it had to be a machine. Think about that. So, in other words, somebody created a machine that whose specific function is to do this to a human being. That is horrifying because machines take a factory. Somebody built a machine that does this to human bodies. That's the main takeaway. And that the wounds look very much like a cattle mutilation. Now, they also talk about that the cause of death for this gentleman, actual cause of death, was something called vital reaction. So, vital reaction is death from pain itself. Imagine that you experience just so much horrific pain that you just cease. Everything seizes, your heart, your brain, everything instantly, and you're just dead. That's what caused the death of this gentleman. And I found that very, very interesting because for a couple of reasons. Number one, many UFO investigators have linked cattle mutilation to the reptilian aliens. Number two, many remote viewers who have targeted reptilian aliens, and I've talked about this extensively, have reported that they have a mechanical like torture system for human beings, which then produces the enzymes necessary in the bloodstream to produce the kind of adrenochrome, etc., necessary for their nourishment. And so what you're seeing is a crossing, if you will, of actual evidence of both of those things. In other words, if the reptilians were conducting the cattle mutilations, and they were doing the systematic torture of human captives in order to produce this, secretions in the glands, etc., which I'll get into in depth at some point. But it's an interesting thing. So, from this new report, and the CIA apparently coming to talk to this very famous Stanford research scientist and get him to not only look at debris from what he specifically says in the report are UFOs. So, how much more do you need than that? And so it's fascinating. And then on top of that, the fact that they're focusing on humans being hurt by these things is that toehold you need to keep getting more and more public attention. So that's kind of where all of that is leading. And let me see if I forgot anything else before I got to let you guys go, because God, I've been running. There's a lot of irons in the fire right now, guys. So, oh yeah, last show. So people were asking about the underwater alien footage on the last show. So, which I'm glad I showed it. I really am. But I stepped on the wrong toes. So apparently I wasn't supposed to show that footage to you guys, because I got in trouble. So, and I was forced to cut that footage out of last show or have problems. I'll leave it at that. So I took it out. And that's, I just had to, it's better that than getting shut completely down. And I did not make somebody very happy by showing that underwater footage, which I don't understand. Yeah, it's really hard to find out there, but you can't find it. So I don't know. They were not pleased in the least. And what else did I have? There was one more thing. Yes. Oh, yeah. One other really interesting quick thing before I let you guys go. So a recent, very interesting find at Stonehenge. So they found two bodies under Stonehenge, an older man and a younger man. They appear to be related. They tested the older of the two, who was missing its head, or one of them. I think he was missing a part of his body. But they were able to determine they have a way of looking at the bone structure, teeth, etc., of these ancient corpses and determining what kind of groundwater they were drinking, believe it or not, and where that groundwater was located, so they can tell where somebody in ancient times spent a long period of their time in, because they had to drink that water, and that water produces a specific effect in the bones, and that effect can be seen thousands of years later. And so there you have it. So they discovered, make a long story short, that the elder gentleman had come from somewhere in middle Germany, and that the younger of the two had been born at Stonehenge, but had spent a long period of time in the same area of Germany. It really kind of threw them off in that they've never had an example of people in the ancient past traveling very long distances to live a portion of their life, only to travel all the way back and spend the rest of their life. It's something that stands out. Let's put it that way. Stands out in a big way. So another clue emerges in the Stonehenge mystery. So that's all I've got for you tonight, guys. Like I said, next week I'll have a lot more we'll stick to a main topic, and I'll have a lot more video and photographic evidence to show you guys, which I just couldn't get to this round. Yeah, and that's all I got. So I hope everybody out there is doing great. The new show, it's called Threshold, will actually be on Tuesday nights, 5 o'clock Central, and there's a reason for that. So these producers are wanting to target East Coast audience, drive home, and people that are, cooking dinner, that kind of thing. So Tuesday nights at a 5 to 6 o'clock is kind of the highest listenership you'll ever get for this kind of a show. And so that's why we're having it on that particular night. It will be archived for people to see it, but it will be earlier in the day because it's intended for more of an East Coast audience, which, is where most of the population of the United States is. So anyway, yeah, thanks out there, guys. Sorry for a few of the audio problems. That's the other thing. I'm getting ready to upgrade microphones because this thing's just about had it. When I get something, I use it till it breaks. What can you say? And this thing's just about done, as you can see. So I apologize for a little bit of the audio outage. And next week, we'll be covering something really interesting that I have to show you guys. I want it to be a surprise. So anyway, thanks for being with me this evening. I'll see you next Thursday night, same time, same place. And we'll get down to examining yet another deep, dark mystery. You guys be good.